year and every semester I try to change my topic in happiness, but within the gamut and purview of the syllabus. I don't go beyond the syllabus, but within the syllabus, this is a changed topic. Within syllabus, you have got empathy and you have got happiness, but this time I'm talking to you about empathy and morality, the changing colors of human happiness. Well, let me tell you in a storytelling fashion. Currently, this world has got 7 generations surviving. 7 generations. The earliest generation may have born in 1920s, and the latest generation is of course Zoomers, those who are born after 2000. And if you see the colors of human happiness, the kind of change in moral standard, the way we develop empathy for each other, they have changed over generations. And today's topic is how we perceive today empathy and morality. The question is it in crisis? And how do we look into that? And it's probably changing the colors of human happiness. I'll start with a gloomy note, a pessimistic note, that probably the empathy has gone down, morality has gone down. But by the time I finish my talk, I'll also present before you the changed way of looking at empathy and morality. Hopefully you'd like it. The presentation is more in pictures rather than in text, so that you can follow it very easily without constraining yourself to theories or to textbook findings. Now, while I was preparing this talk, I was trying to understand what has gone down in terms of morality and what kind of empathy we are looking at in today's generation, especially in Zoomers, that is, or maybe in millennials. Some of you may be millennials and some of you may be Zoomers. Let us see first, then we'll discuss. You see, we have been seeing a multitude of events like racial discrimination, discrimination on the basis of color, discrimination on the basis of culture, territoriality, race, so many we have been seeing. In our country also we see events like mob lynching. People do not bother about law. They do not think about the rules and regulations within the purview of the justice system. They take justice system in their own hand. There has been crisis like migrant crisis. It was in nobody's hand, but people faced tragedies. How do we look at those tragedies? I'm not trying to implicate anybody in my talk. My idea is to tell you what kind of tragedies we have been seeing in and day out. And we see how people have been suffering. We see public apathy. We talk of empathy, but we see even public apathy. Apathy means you don't feel concerned at all if somebody is suffering. The photograph tells that somebody had an accident, crying for help, but nobody is looking at that. In fact, uh, in roughly a year back, there was an accident on our Kharagpur, that bridge, which was built over the railway tracks. I was passing through and I found there was an accident, and in that accident, two boys probably were dead. And I found some people are taking photographs, in their mobile phone, not for any other reason. I don't know what for they are doing it. They were not interested in helping, they are interested in taking photographs. So, public apathy. Apathy, there are several kinds of pathies: antipathy, apathy, sympathy, empathy. Different kinds of pathies. We'll discuss about it. Domestic violence has gone up like anything, and this domestic violence is not restricted to couples, husband, wife, even father, child, child, father, brother, brother. All kinds of domestic violence have started taking place. And during lockdown, we see more of such domestic violence occurring. Mob hysteria, something happens and mob become hysteric. And I find that if there is a small incident or an accidental incident, public resort to hysterical behavior. It may not matter to them at all, but they indulge in some kind of arson, looting, and hysterical behavior, and it's happening. Dehumanization. We see in construction sites the children, underage children, maybe at best 8 years, 7 years, they have been doing work in construction sites, as the photograph is depicting. Is dehumanization, because somebody must have employed them, and they don't bother that yes, this young girl who should go to school or who should get enough food to sustain herself is actually carrying load in order to earn some bucks to get some rice or chapatis. Stigmatization. We have been stigmatizing people for no reason, that somebody is bad, somebody are poor, somebody has come from a different place, somebody has got a different disease. Even we find in Corona times, if someone had COVID, people have stigmatized them, and people thought that this is the person probably who caused Corona contamination to everybody. We, without knowing, realizing, verifying, we have been stigmatizing people and isolating them from our arena. So the question is that we have been witnessing all these things, particularly I'm referring to millennials and the Zoomers who are born after 1990s. And you have been witnessing these things in and day out. Remember, we have been studying happiness, and if we try to understand happiness without understanding the human miseries, we will probably make a lot of mistakes. Therefore, I thought I'll talk to you about it. Now, the basic question is, what causes us to be unmindful to human miseries? So much of human tragedy, and we do not bother at all. Now, question is, we cannot be mindful to every human misery. That's not possible. My head will not accommodate that. But what causes us to be grossly unmindful? Grossly unmindful. Question is, have we lost empathy? It's a unique human trait. Empathy is also found in monkeys, dogs. And by empathy means you feel. In the next slide we'll get to know about empathy. The science of empathy we'll get to know in the next slide. But let me tell you, empathy is not sympathy. Sympathy means you show your feeling to someone without even feeling about it. But empathy is your feeling which is transpired to someone who is suffering. And compassion is something you do not only feel, you also act. So there are several grades. Apathy means you don't have feeling at all. Antipathy means you feel just the opposite it should have been. Empathy means you feel for someone. Sympathy means you show your empathy, but you don't actually feel it by yourself. Compassion means when you not only feel for others, you also act for them. So compassion, empathy, they are uniquely human trait. Have we lost that? Are we suffering from moral disengagement? That is, do we really bother about what is moral and what is immoral? Do we at all value anything which is happening beyond us? We call it egocentric and ecocentric. Have we become completely egocentric? Only think about ourselves? Have we forgotten that we do not survive if we do not at all become ecocentric? So these are fundamental questions. We'll first answer the question on empathy. Now the science of empathy says it's the experience of understanding another person's thought, feeling and condition from their point of view, not your point of view. So you feel about others, how they feel. And why do I call it science of empathy? Because a lot of researches were done on empathy using our functional architecture of the brain. I'll first show you the picture and then I'll explain it how these pictures were taken. What you see, this is the brain and you see some of the activation points. The red and yellow areas are actually activation points. How do we capture those activation points? Because when the person enters into a MRI machine, magnetic resonance imaging machine, it's a big magnet, generally a 3.5 or 3 Tesla magnet. When you feel something, certain areas of the brain shows that it is activating. Activating means what? It is consuming glucose. It means when you are in pain, certain neurons fire. And the moment neurons fire, the local area oxygen gets depleted. When the oxygen gets depleted, then from nearby capillaries, blood rushes in to compensate for that deoxygenated condition. So when the blood comes in a particular area, we get certain activation of magnetized blood and demagnetized blood, deoxygenated blood. So the area where there is a contrast of magnetized and demagnetized blood, we capture that in the camera and see it through computer that which area of the brain is getting activated. Now, how the science of empathy work has been done. If my mother is having pain, headache, getting a huge pain, and if I love my mother, if I love my sister, if I love my wife, my associate, whosoever is the person, then I get a corresponding activation here, even if I do not have any headache. In fact, I do not have a headache, but I am an just onlooker who is listening to the person who has got pain. So if my mother has got the pain, I do not have the pain, but activation I get it in the similar area, the pain area. It means when we experience somebody else's pain and if we are empathic, then we get an activation in the brain in this similar area. So the science of empathy suggests that human beings are highly empathic. If you cry, we may not cry overtly, but we feel sad about it. If we see a movie, somebody is laughing, we also start laughing. So the activation which takes place in the brain area also manifests itself in overt behavior. The science says that observation of action automatically triggers simulation of that action. That is, you see it and your brain is activated. You do not have to do anything. And the mechanism is that there are certain neurons in the brain, which is basically in the premotor area of the brain, which is responsible for that inner imitation and empathy. We call it inner imitation. A lot of researches were done. I mean, Rizzolatti, a person in Italy, he was doing an experiment with macaque monkeys. He was doing an experiment on monkeys and peanuts. The moment monkey gets a peanut or sees a peanut, it tries to grab it and there are certain activation in the brain. The way we see it in magnetic resonance imaging. At that point of time, people used to do it with some kind of electrophysiological recording, not through medical imaging. So one day what happened, Rizzolatti entered into the room and he found there is a peanut which is lying on the floor. He wanted to pick it up. The moment he picked it up, he found that there is a similar activation coming up in the monkey's head. Although monkey was not going to get that, but monkey saw that the experimenter is picking up a peanut and he found identical response coming up in the monkey's head. So from there he realized that whatever we do, we try to mirror others. So they call it as mirrored neurons. And it happens when I show you this picture, if somebody is yawning, you also tend to yawn. Even if it is in the television, you tend to yawn. So the mirror neuron actually is the site from where we develop empathy and inner imitation. Question is, if it is biologically driven and ingrained, why are we losing it? What could be the mechanism behind? We are going to discuss about it. Question is, why are we losing such kind of empathy? I mean, is it due to the bombardment of all such tragedies? We call it news fatigue. Anytime you open up television, you will be lost in tragedies. I have shown you the Ukraine photograph. I mean, the Ukraine-Russia war. You will find that women and children, they are suffering like anything. And we see it every now and then. In fact, we do not see any happy face whenever we open up a news. So news fatigue could be one thing that we are losing the propensity behind empathy. We are lost in tragedies. And if you worry too much all the time, see something is happening in the news in terms of some kind of presentations, your cells, brain cells, age quickly. So the motor neurons, they actually do not activate that much because they are bombarded with so much of fatigue, news fatigue. So they age quickly and their activation goes down. It's also possible that we become selectively apathic. I mean, as I said, that we cannot develop empathy for everything that is happening all around the world. We become selectively apathic. We don't even bother at times what is happening. We don't feel for them. But then why? Probably it is possible that we want to avoid secondary trauma, because every time you see a traumatic event and you internalize it, you develop some kind of traumatic and negative experience. So by avoiding, if I have to avoid some kind of trauma, then I develop selective apathy. That is, I don't become mindful about it. I become carelessly careful about that. It's also possible that there are few people who try to help us with empathy when we are under stress. I mean, empathy today should not come only after tragedy. Somebody must tune our empathy as well. So the happiness class we have been doing is to just tune your happiness. We do not carry out this happiness class by giving you some material benefit, neither giving you extra marks, nor by giving you a job. We simply try to tune your empathy, tune your happiness, even if you are not under stress. So there are not much of people probably who can do that, but we have been trying with all of you to do this. Online interaction reduces empathy. You have been studying the classes as well. I mean, I have been teaching you through online interaction only. We don't see each other. We don't have an eye contact to each other. Well, that's a compulsion. That's nothing doing. I mean, nobody can help us. It's an emergency. We had passed. Hopefully, we have passed out. Surpassed that emergency. But that 2 years of online interaction made us less and less empathic, or more of apathy. So empathy is basically a social glue. If we lose it, we become moral moron. Moral moron means moral idiocy, that we become morally idiot, because if we are losing that social glue, we are probably becoming more and more moral moron. Could you follow that? Any answer, any question from anyone? Are you getting it? Anybody?
Yes, sir, we are listening.
Okay, but listening is one thing, but are you getting the point of view, what we are trying to tell? Then otherwise I'll explain it once again. That's the point I'm making it. Is it understandable to you what I wanted to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then next question is, why are we losing morality? Because empathy is one part, the other part is morality. We do not know today what is right, what is wrong. The social anchor of right or wrong is diffused. And earlier, we used to have a clear understanding between what is right and what is wrong. Many people have been doing certain things. They know that they are wrong, but they don't bother. Suppose somebody has joined the class, then it's not attending at all, doing something else. Well, they know it's wrong, but there is no social anchor. And since there is no social anchor in online classes, people feel that, well, that probably is, can be avoided very easily. Media is also shaping our minimal moral standard. We are all watching social media every day, likes, dislikes, and probably instead of our parents, instead of our grandparents. Today, who is setting the moral standard? The media is setting the moral standard, shaping the moral standard, which is wrong. The media has not come up with some basis, with some cultures. Media has its own culture, so our minimal moral standard is also going down. At times, we try to justify after doing something immoral. We are doing something wrong, but feeling moral. सब करते हैं, मैं भी करता हूँ. It's a justification. I'm doing a wrong thing, but I feel that, well, there is nothing wrong in stealing somebody else's money because I am in need of it and I can justify it, why I did that. So moral justification, moral disengagement due to hyper-competitive grooming. That is, we all are competing against each other. And since we are competing against each other, the outright winning is more important rather than strategic success. Many people may be getting good marks in the exam because they are in hyper-competitive grooming state and standard. But when it comes to ultimately getting a job, person who got highest marks don't get the best of the jobs. So we make a difference between, outright success versus strategic win. Some people are strategically winning even if they are not getting highest marks. So our misconceptions are there about morality. These misconceptions need to be understood properly. We believe that misconception about morality, we believe that morality is probably human invention. We the human being have invented it. And nobody was there at that point of time whether it was right or wrong. So something has come up and that has become a human invention. Not true. We believe that we are inherently moral, only compulsions make us immoral. Actually, if you look at the brain structure suggests that the lower part of our brain is immoral, but the upper part of the brain, the neocortex, is fully moral. Biologically, we have developed morality through immoral act and activity that does not support our survival to moral act and moral activities which support our survival. The misconception is there. We believe that once there is a moral standard set, it remains intact. आपने सीख लिया at the early childhood that telling lies is wrong, that will remain intact. No, it will change. It will change if it is not continuously and repeatedly reinforced and nurtured through your culture. We believe that moral people follow always ethical standard. No, there are moral people. At some cases they are moral, in some cases they are immoral. So it may coexist. In the same person, there are moral activities, there are immoral activities. And moral people are well adjusted, free from dilemmas is also not true. We believe that those who are moral people, they are very well adjusted. Actually, somebody who is moral find more dilemmas, more conflict, more confusion, more difficulty, more anxiety. Those who are loyal, they do not find difficulty. Good or bad, they will follow loyal. But those who are moral, they have to adjudge good and bad with a lot of difficulties. So loyal people cannot be moral. Moral people cannot always be loyal. There is a basic confusion between loyalty and morality. These are huge misconceptions about our morality. Now, the changing moral values, which are happening, that we also must understand, as I said, over the years, last 100 years, I said 7 generations have been surviving, maybe very few in those who are in 1920s, born in 1920s. But if you see that there are at least 7 generations, we see that people change the way they think about good and bad. It's not that what you used to think good 20 years back, today you think that it is bad today. So moral standards are also changing. We are more moral 100 years ago, but more judgmental too. I mean, maybe we were very moral 100 years ago, but we have also become very judgmental today. So morality and judgmentality both have come together. And if I judge that this morality will not help me survive, then I remain judgmental rather than moral. Suppose I know I will die if I don't get food. So I may be judgmental. I think that, well, I may steal and I'll help myself survive first. Then I can become moral. So people have become judgmental too. Fairness or compassion-based morality gained more prominence today than authority or purity-based morality. It means 100 years back, people used to talk about purity-based morality. That is, if telling lies is bad, you should never tell it, even if you die. That's called purity-based morality. Fairness-based morality is that, well, you may lie, probably if you can help someone survive in the process. So suppose there is a cancer patient, he or she is going to die, and if you tell them that no, you are not going to die, you are going to survive, that's fairness-based morality. But if there is a patient who is going to die, should I tell the purity-based morality only that he will die? That's called purity-based morality. So there is a basic confusion between fairness-based morality and purity-based morality. So the point is, the challenge is how we think about morality itself. That's the challenge. How we interpret morality, how we operationalize morality, how we define morality. So each one of us has our own way of defining morality. Let me give you some happy stories. As I told you that, well, there may be some gloomy pictures at the outset, but there are too many happy pictures, too many resilient pictures also I have. That I do not believe that the morality has gone down. People have become more resilient, more judgmental, more empathic at many points of time. It hasn't died down. You see this lady, she is a cancer survivor. She had 2 surgeries, chemotherapy, 5 years of antibiotics, but once she is cured, or not even fully cured, she has organized 140 cancer workshops, attended by over 26,000 people, traveled over 30,000 kilometers in 177 days, just to tell people that even if you have got cancer, you can survive. Your optimism is more important. Your ability to fight it out is more important. You cannot be nihilistic. You cannot be pessimistic. So you see, we didn't see such kind of courage and resilience in 100 years back. Probably there, but we don't know. But today we have got such exemplary stories. Now, this boy has got a value which is more than skin deep. This lady was an acid attack survivor, and this man decided that he would marry a ugly woman who is a acid attack survivor. They have a nice baby as well. They also have shown what the human value is all about. So they don't bother. I mean, these people did not bother about society, who will believe what. This man, we call it Hitendra effect in saving lives. This boy was brain dead, actually, in a motorbike accident. And the man actually saved 5 lives based on the organs which Hitendra had left when he was brain dead. So a person dying saved 5 people. We have lot of values, lot of morality. Karimul Haq is a person who has come up with a bike ambulance because he doesn't have much money. And this man has saved hundreds and thousands of people in the remote villages of Madhya Pradesh by taking the patients into that ambulance, also putting drip and also transporting them from remote villages to the main hospital. We call it bike ambulance. He was given Padam Shri by the President of India, always there to help. So we have got no dearth of people who have got empathy, who have got value, who have got morality. Today, I am not referring about all those what I have spoken. You see, when pandemic came up, everybody came up, with whatever substance they have back home. They volunteered for giving food to people. Those who are branded as bad people, they came up and started helping people with food, with shelter, with clothes, with everything they do have. So it's happening today. A year back, this has happened. So how do I call that our morality has changed? Even the policemen everywhere, they were branded as people taking bribes, doing all kinds of wrong things. But you have seen that during pandemic, they are the first line of defense for common people. They fed so many people. They did so much of activity which can actually be, given a lot of appreciation. The doctors, they stayed inside the car so that they do not infect their children and saved so many lives, unimaginable. And all of them probably of your age. This photograph that you see is a group of migrants who were traveling from Bombay way back to Bihar. In some place, they took a shelter in a school because schools were not running. So the villagers gave them shelter in a school. And they cooked their food, they survived there. And while going back, they decided that they will paint the school because they are painters basically. So out of gratitude, they could have very easily avoided. Nobody would have compelled them to do that. But they did it. They thought that we lived here for some days. They allowed us to live. We must pay something back to the community what they can offer. So migrants painting school. Problem is that there are paradoxes of changes. So much of changes are taking place within a lifespan. As I told you, there are 7 generations, but within one lifespan. For example, I am 65 years of old age, and in my lifespan, in my generation, in my lifetime, I have seen so much of changes taking place. Probably that change is creating a turbulence in our system, which is creating a turbulence in our value system. Our basic values are changing because of so much of changes are taking place in the world or in the environment. And the change creates a new form of ambiguity and inequalities. We do not understand under that changed condition what I should do. So they perceive a lot of ambiguities and a lot of inequalities. This is called paradox of equality. And the paradox of motive, since change brings expectation that are prone to frustration, most of are becoming frustrated because of the rapid changes which are taking place. Earlier, the world used to change. The last time world changed massively was in World War I and World War II. But then we did not change much. From 1950s to 1990s, we had 40 years, 4 decades. There was a lull period. There was not much of change. But since 2000 onwards, there was a massive change coming up. And because of this change, there is a pervasive reorientation of our value system, of our understanding of equality, and our understanding of what is that we want under the changed circumstance. Because everything is floating, everything is dynamic. Therefore, my last slide suggests that moral standards have not gone down. I personally, because this is a creation, this talk is created by me, I mean, in my own way. So I am a little judgmental at the end, because people often believe that probably the millennials and the Zoomers, they are immoral. I don't think. Moral standards have not gone down. Only benchmarks are redefined. If we have become less moral, more judgmental, quite possible, but that doesn't mean we have become completely immoral. So morality is now more often a reality-based event rather than a theoretical best practice. If we talk about theoretical best practice, then we should never tell a lie. But we tell lies at times in order to survive. So for the sake of survival, if someone is telling lies for the sake of survival, then probably I'll call it as reality-based morality. But if somebody is lying without reason, not for any survival reason, but for habitual reason, they are immoral people. So that's the possible takeaway, what I thought I must present before you. If you have got any question, I'll definitely get back to you. Yes, Sukanya?
Sir, it is me, Boishali.
Yes.
Sir, even if it is for any justified reason, someone is lying, but if that lie is going to harm somebody, then is it okay?
No, certainly not. Because what I'm trying to tell you, the theoretical best practice probably, look, I also don't want to be judgmental, because morality is your personal perception, how you define it. How you define morality completely should be, instead of trying to tell what should be done and what should not be done, my idea is that you must be able to define morality. And then you should be able to adhere to it. If I tell a lie and somebody is being harmed in the process, definitely it cannot be a moral act. But suppose if you tell a cancer patient that you are not going to die, you will live as we are living some days back, some days later. I think that's also lying. I'm referring about such kind of morality, which is not for harming someone, but for reaching the benefit to that person. Then it does not fall under the category of theoretical best practice, but it's a good way of referring about what is immoral by lying and what is moral by lying.
Yes, sir.
So
Understood.
morality, if it benefits someone, it may not follow under theoretical best practice, but that's the morality I would like to adhere to, accepted. But if I'm lying to someone and it's going to harm someone, then it's not the morality we are talking about. But ultimately, whether I am going to harm someone or benefit someone is also a judgmental process. So somebody has to define their own process of defining morality.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello,
Thank you.
hello, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
bolo.
Sir Deepak Chaudhary, sir.
Bolo,
Sir,
Deepak, bolo.
as you discuss about the morality depends upon our own views, our
Mhm,
own perception, sir. But the perception of our perception comes from the books that we read, the people that we observe.
mhm.
Then there is an from your observation, you have a lot of experience. From your observation, there is any some keys from which it will be simpler to us to defining the morality. Some
देखो
in
यार
way we can
बोलो.
some simple way in which we can judge we can take a thought in our mind, okay, next time in this type of case occur, then we have to take like that, in this type of principle that can we make in our mind.
uh, दीपक ऐसा है ना देखो there are three kinds of moral judgments: best judgment, good judgment, right judgment. uh, are you getting me now?
Yes sir, I am listening.
Best judgment means what is universally true, universally good. Good judgment means you have got several alternatives out of which you have taken one alternative. And right judgment means you have taken an action which is self-defeating at this point, but in long run it will benefit someone. That's the right judgment. So when we take a moral judgment, you have to decide whether I am going to take a best judgment, good judgment, or a right judgment. I do it in this manner because I believe there are three facets of morality. One is context, one is content, one is intent. तुम चाहते क्या हो? Intent. Content क्या है? I mean, what is that I want to do? And what is the context which is prevailing? So there is always a conflict of context, content and intent. मैं एक सिंपल सा वो बता दूं तुमको. Other, I mean, I'm sure you are at my son's age or maybe much younger than that. I tell my son that keep your intent clear, honest. Make any mistake, you will never repent in life. And repentance is the cancer, mental cancer. We repent simply because we feel guilty. And we feel guilty because we realize that we should not have done that, the bad intent. So when your intent is correct, maybe your content is wrong, maybe your context is defying, you will never lose your case. I have seen thousands of patients, I mean, no less than 20,000 patients in my lifetime who are mental patients primarily. And I have seen almost all of them are suffering because of some kind of guilt. So never allow guilt to come to you. Take all decisions which will bring inner peace. It may be self-defeating, no problem, but take that decision. I call it right decision rather than a good decision, rather than a best decision. So best decision that I can benefit instantly is the best decision maybe. Good decision is that, well, we all collectively would benefit. But right decision is that let me not take the benefit, but let my intent and conscience be clear. So the opposite side of the coin, human mind, one side is guilt, other side is conscience. If you can satisfy your conscience, you will never be in conflict in lifetime. Am I clear to you, Deepak?
Yes sir, yes sir.
So best thing is that keep your intent clear and honest. You will never be in dilemma of morality.
Okay, thank you sir.
Thank you. Anything else?
Answer, it is a reflection only, not a question.
Mm-hmm.
From what you have told, Leslie, which I figured out for myself, that
Mm-hmm.
it is very important to uh, what I am committing to myself. If I am being honest to myself, that is very much important, right, sir?
It means if you don't know how to honor your own decision, you cannot expect that others will honor you.
Yes.
Isn't that? So
Of
we keep on asking people, kya karna chahiye, kya karna chahiye? We become suggestible because we do not want to take decisions for myself. If you are not honest to yourself, you would never be able to take a decision. And taking decision is so important in life. And once you take a decision, don't try to be rigid, be flexible, but call it as your decision. Don't blame others for your decision making. Therefore, therefore, you would be always moral when you take a decision and you honor it. So don't be suggestible. Don't you can take guidance from everyone, but when you decide, the action must come from your decision, not from somebody else's decision. That's why there is a difference between a loyal person and a moral person. Loyal person always takes a decision based on others. Moral person takes a decision always from what they have in their inner mind. That's why a moral people cannot become a loyal person. A loyal person cannot ever become a moral person. That's the controversy.
Oh, sir, is it like that the rationale behind every single decision should be clear to us at first, right?
Not really, beta. Not really. Because I may not have the rationale before I take a decision. But let me tell you, more than taking a right decision, the important thing in life is that take a decision. The best ornament of a human being is that it can take a decision. But most of us are frozen when we are in conflict, suspended when we are forced to take a decision. But the person who is honest in their intent knows that they have to take a decision. It may be wrong, it may be right, it may be good, it may be best. But if you are frozen in decision making with the hope that your decision would be a best decision, then probably you will have to suffer like anything else. This is what I call to all my students in IIT as apprehension of hypothetical missed opportunity. That is, you take a decision of studying engineering, you do something at some point of time, something wrong, you could not get good marks, and you start thinking probably I should have done something else. I should have gone somewhere else. I would have done better. So the alternative thoughts come when you do not honor your own decision. Am I clear to you?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So if there is no other question, then I can leave. But if there is any question, I can definitely answer. Not that you have to ask it in this class only. You can ask me anytime. I'll come back for other classes as well on happiness. Okay?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank
thank you.
you. Very good evening to all
Thank you.
of you. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.